teachers of Reddit, what was your "that's impressive but I still have to punish the kid" moment? I had a classmate jump on the teacher's computer and visit a website that would go full screen and make it seem like it was a Mac now instead of a PC. It was April's Fool's Day and this was his prank. This was in like 2003. So security wasn't the conversation it is today. Anyway, he still got in trouble. The teacher got really angry and kind of yelled at him to sit down in the corner. She called in the vice principal, then the principal, then the on-campus police office. And then when he was good and terrified, all four turned to him and said April Fools and let him off the hook. He got his punishment though. He was terrified. ESL teacher here. So I teach high school ESL class where most of my students either don't speak any English or they speak very little. I had a student in there who was constantly disruptive and liked to bully the other kids to establish his manliness. One day, the disruptive kid is doing his normal annoying shtick and out of nowhere, my quiet little Latina in the corner of the room, in the clearest pronounced English I've ever heard her speak, said, "You stupid moth affair." I had to hold in a laugh. I then had a quick convo with her and congratulated her on the clear pronunciation but also told her she couldn't say that in class. I teach a tech certification class here for a local non-profit. Just a week or so ago I was walking the students through using Task Scheduler in Windows when my phone started to blow up with emails. Turns out one of the students created a dozen scheduled tasks to send me an email every 5 minutes. Title: Cats 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 cats. Body: Cats 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 cats. You get the picture. Needless to say, his punishment came in the form of a scheduled task running as a service on his PC that randomly ejects the optical drive at different intervals. He has not figured out why this is happening yet, and it's forcing him to learn how to troubleshoot an issue. So I see it as a win. God, that reminds me of back in the day when we had to take computer literacy in middle school. In the dark ages of the late 80s, we had a student teacher who was observing helping in that class, and one of the things she had to teach us was how to do code in BASIC. I would write all kinds of crazy programs to leave her insane messages after class was over. Fortunately, she thought it was funny and not offensive. Back in the day my friend found an exploit in the school laptops that allowed him administrator access. It was pretty clever. He brought it up to it. Problem was it was very obscure and no one would have been looking for such an exploit unless they wanted to bypass the school's security. So he got suspended. Not a teacher. But when my mad lad English teacher was in school he was voted in by his peers as prefect after he promised them vending machines and pool tables. He then told everyone that he lied about putting in vending machines and pool tables and explained why democracy is inherently flawed. And they say school doesn't teach you life lessons that will be relevant in real life. My husband used to work in after school care. One time he saw two kids starting to fight in the sandpit. He headed over to try to calm them down. But while he was on his way, one kid ran at the other, who just calmly flipped the first kid over his head like a textbook martial arts move. My husband said he had to stop himself from shouting, "Wow, great job." I fought a lot as a kid because I was fat and prideful. I learned how to throw someone over my shoulder early, at about 8 years old, and that became my move until I got in trouble years later because someone tattled. No one ever believes the bigger kid didn't start the fight. A student in one of the schools I work at had as close to a full service bar and smoke shop set up in a couple of lockers as you can get. The lockers were located in a corner of the hallway that is easily obscured and difficult to monitor. The kid just slapped his own locks on there and nobody noticed. When he was caught, the lockers were found to have several makeshift shelves in them, and contained several bottles of hard liquor, some solo cups, and paper shot glasses in one of them. The other contained a backpack containing some weed and various other drug paraphernalia for sale. The kid had quite the little enterprise going and God knows how much money he made before he got caught. I was shown pictures of what was in the locker, and I had to admit, given what he had to work with, it was quite an impressive setup. Of course, I'm sure he was brought up on a significant number of charges, but still, even the principal had to give him credit for the setup. First 6 months of teaching. Grade 8 English. Kid did a 360 on one leg of his chair. I was impressed but gave him a timeout because it was dangerous. Part of the requirement for timeout was that students identify what got them sent out in the first place. I did a mad 360 on my chair but Miss said it wasn't safe. I've still got that timeout sheet on my desk 2.5 years later. Yes, Ethan. It was a mat 360, but it was still dangerous. I'm an art teacher. Had a student submit his art book with a great variety of different dick drawings. One was an impressive concoction of two cat heads as the testicles and a detailed furry shaft. As his was assessment, I had to ring his mother to let her know. Me. Your son has handed in his assessment and it has penises drawn all over it. Mother. I'm sorry you find my son's style of art offensive. Me. Personally, I am not offended. However, it does go against our school's graffiti policy. My co-worker and I discovered that one of our students was running an underground crime syndicate selling individual icebreaker mints for 50 cents a pop. We agreed not to punish him or inform the administration, but we did confront him privately and told him he needed to stop before it got him in trouble. He had about a half dozen employees and was selling at every grade level by the time we put an end to it. Kid was a C student at best, but he's definitely going places. I was a new teacher at a school that had a demerit system. Do something bad, get a demerit. At the end of the week, get punished for every demerit over 3. One kid talked like a sailor. I gave lots of warnings to prevent him from being punished to hell and back, but that didn't faze him. So he got demerits. Friday rolled around. Kid, Charlie 24,601. How many demerits do I have? Me. 4. Kid, what? What the hell for? Me. Swearing. Kid, that's effing LSH. The first time I caught students cheating, it was 2 8th grade girls that had all of the same wrong answers on a vocabulary matching test. I pulled the girls aside after class to ask about it, and after some sheepish grins they both admitted that a third girl, their friend who was an A+ student, had fed them both incorrect answers on purpose. She screwed over her friends because she was pissed they were mooching. For punishment, the first 2 girls got to keep their very poor test grades. The mastermind got your friend's arm out at you as her punishment. Natural consequences. I can't remember the question that was asked of my niece, about 6 at the time, but she stood up in the class and said Sister Bernadette's a B. Sister as in a nun. The teacher told my sister, normal sister, not a nun, that whilst she couldn't condone the behavior, Sister Bernadette was in fact a total B. They had a good laugh about it. Obligatory, not me, but I was there. Background: my principal was like mid-50s and always wearing suits. Christian high school. He also had a lazy eye and a pot belly. Nothing too out of the ordinary. We have Spirit Week and one of those days is Twin Day. So one kid decides to have a refine mad lad day and dress up as our principal. Bonus points. He was the only kid at school with a lazy eye. So this little punk shows up in a suit, a pillow stuffed underneath his shirt for the pot belly, and just calmly sat at his desk. My principal, also doubling as math teacher, was turned doing problems on the board. He turns back, sees this punk A kid, turns back to the board, swallows the laugh, and turns back saying better be glad I don't beat kids. Detention. Punk kid served detention still in his twin suit, pillow gut and all. I was a student in class at the time, but we had this kid named Mitchell, and for whatever reason some of the other kids called him Mickle, pronounced like pickle. In music class, a room designed for sounds to travel, a kid passed a note to him that said I'll give you a nickel if you tickle my pickle, Mickle, and the music teacher snatched it and read it aloud. I don't think she realized what she read till it was too late, but I could tell she was holding in a giggle. Not a teacher, but I remember in high school kid fought off a bully. His 2 friends try to help beat him up and the kid beat all 3 of them up. Jumps on the one who started it and beat him till he couldn't open either eyes. The coach who saw this pulls him off and once settled down asked him, did you do all this to them yourself? And the kid, still angry but pretty casually, goes, and I'll do it again if these douchebags haven't learned anything. And the coach goes, you may have to, I think you hit them so hard they're gonna have to learn their abs again too. Anyways, long story short, the kid got arrested and expelled. Never came back to school, but the coach said he was impressed and wished the kid only got suspended for a bit instead of expelled. I overheard the wrestling team saying that coach and the coach who split it up, gymnastics coach, had the security footage and would show it to their varsity teams. Only the initial bully got expelled too. He was a regular offender, hence why no one felt bad about his. His friends only got minor suspensions because they were trying to break it up and come to a friend's aid. I went to 5A high school. Pretty diverse. Lots of fights. After grading an exam, I realized two students were cheating because they had the same answer. I knew who had copied since one of them had straight A all over the semester while the other was struggling. So, as I did not saw the cheat happening, I gave a chance to both come out and tell the truth and said, okay, the one who copied will receive 0 and the one who really did it will receive half the grade. So which of you really did the original answer? I was expecting the cheater to come clean or the A student to try to not get punished. The problem was that the cheater stayed in silence while the A student took the blame. Later that day the A student called me to say his friend was going through hard times with his family and needed some help with his grades. So he helped. I was the punished student. Here we have some little stick, about 3 centimeters long and 5 millimeter diameter. Firecrackers that if you scratch them to rough surface it will create a little cracking sound. I invented a magnificent way to let them explode. Put the firecrackers below a stone then fricking stomp it. Literally the sound was like a flat tire and actually a bit deafening. I tried outside my class. The principal was walking by. The whole school heard it. Every eyes were on me. The principal immediately dragged me to his office, threatening me to call the police. I was underage and firecrackers should only be used with adult supervision. And he did make a phone call. I started crying my tears out begging him not to call the police. Few years later I realized that he was calling his family in his local language and dialect. Not a teacher, but teacher adjacent. I was on recess duty with a bunch of 7-9-year-olds one day, and this kid ran up to me to point out a couple of other kids fighting. I turn around, and yep, looked like a fight. As I went over there, a couple things stood out. The two fighting were besties, so it was weird that they were fighting, and they were making sound effects. Dudes were playing out some epic Star Wars battle, complete with stick sabers and the blaster noises and everything. Their stunt coordination was on point. Y'all, I had to make them put down the sticks and holster their finger guns. By the rules, I should have sent them to the principal to be suspended for the finger guns, but that's ridiculous for consensual play acting, so no, but commended them on how real it all looked. Our class teacher, dunno what's the right word, he was basically the teacher responsible for us, really had to hold back his laughter when punishing a guy in my class. That dude managed to redneck engineer a smoke bomb that made the classroom unusable for 2 days. In like 15 minutes, we all probably inhaled not so healthy fumes that day, but damn it was impressive, especially when comparing it to the YT tutorial he followed. In 9th grade our school got a vending machine for soft drinks and water. They all were damn expensive, €3 per 0, 5 liters, and the pledge, don't know if this is the right translation, money you get back when you return it, was €5. All students and most of the teachers said it was too expensive and wanted it removed cause younger students spent all their lunch money on one Sprite. The machine had a return slot for the empty bottles, so we ripped one label of one bottle and printed it like 1,000 times. Every time someone wanted to drink something we put 6 copies of the little paper in the machine and basically got a drink for free. It went down for about 2 weeks until one of the teachers caught us. We had to do detention. But a couple years after school we met him again and he told us he really liked it cause the soft drinks were way too expensive anyway. My wife told me a story of how a kid put wax strips on his eyebrows and rat tash, pube stash for those across the pond, laughed her head off whilst telling him to pull them off. Some kid was gonna jump on a huge carton of milk and spray a group of 20 kids. Some genius kid quickly ran up and sprayed it backwards all over him. He was head to toe white, dripping with milk. First kid gets punished whilst covered in milk for instigating. I'm not a teacher but a student who witnessed the whole event where I go to. You can get detention for drawing or vandalizing the school bathrooms. Anyways, a friend of mine who happened to be an artist himself thought it would be a good idea to paint the Mona Lisa on one of the bathroom stalls and it was so impressive one might even think he copied and pasted the actual painting onto the stall. After lunch everyone was gathering around to look at this masterpiece and the school had to look at the security cameras to find the culprit and they gave the kid a 2-day suspension plus having to clean up the painting, which is bullsh.